You're listening to the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast, episode 154. 10 ways to catapult results and confidence for your teen at the same time, and how you can have every single one of those 10 things happen for your teen. I'm Katie Jones, and with over 15 years in education as an award-winning high school teacher, international external examiner, and as a study coach, I've helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and confidence. And this podcast is where I share all my insights, tactics, and tips with you, the parent, so you can help your hardworking teen get happy, smart, and successful in their study, and have you both enjoy the journey along the way. This is the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. Hey there, very important parents and carers and grandparents. I hope you are doing really, really well. I hope your teens are doing well, especially as we get to the end of this term. It has been a big term. But I hope that everyone is surviving, and I hope that you have some nice plans upcoming for the holidays when they arrive. Today, I want to talk about one of my favorite things about the skills and techniques that I teach and train students in and that I coach them on. And that is the fact that these skills, these techniques, the strategies, the concepts, they do both of the things that I know students and parents most want. And those are achieving results that match their subject knowledge and ability and reflect their effort, and also increase their confidence so that they feel clear on what they need to be doing and they know exactly how to go about doing it. And this is what I have dedicated myself to for over 10 years now. And it's exactly what I deliver in my flagship program, the 10-week grade transformation program. And I kind of realized as I'm running a promotion for the 10-week grade transformation program right now, that I've never really shared in detail the content of the 10WGT, that we call it for short. 10-week grade transformation program is quite a mouthful. I do sometimes wonder where or why I decided on that title, but here we are. It is my flagship program. It has stuck for a very long time through various updates, improvements, and transitions, and it is the 10WGT for short. So I wanted to share that here on the podcast, and I figured that having a promotion on right now is a great time to share it. So I'm going to do it in a very specific way. And that is with a focus that means that this episode is useful to everyone, no matter what, no matter whether your teen has ever done the 10-week program, whether they never do their 10-week program, whether this is something that gets them or you interested in them doing the 10-week program, whatever it is. I want to make sure that this episode is useful as a standalone resource. So I'm going to do that with a focus on explaining how each concept, each skill set, each module in the program simultaneously catapults your teen's results and their confidence, and does both of those very fast, but also sustainably in a way that lasts way beyond those 10 weeks of training. Because these are concepts that once you see them, it's like the thing you can't unsee. Once you understand them, you can't forget them. You can't not understand them. It's a little bit like riding a bike. Once you know them, once you can do them, you do not lose them. And they just become a way that your teen studies, the way that they view and see questions, the way that they tackle assignments, essays, and reports. Everything just becomes clearer, easier. Notice easier. I'm not saying that everything is suddenly going to become easy, but it is going to become easier. And therefore, they'll be able to get things done faster. It'll be much more efficient. They can have more time for other things in life, and they will get them done. Let's just use the basic word of better. It will be a higher quality response, and that means that they'll be accessing and gaining more of the marks on the success criteria, on the marking rubrics, on those examination mark schemes. So here we go. The 10 best ways that I have found over my 19 years of teaching, exam marking, moderation, and panel membering for exam boards, the 10 best ways to catapult results and confidence for your teen. So catapult number 1, and that is what we call the modules in the 10W 10WGT. We call them catapults because they catapult your teen's results and confidence very high, and they do it fast. So catapult 1 of the 10WGT is focused and fired up. Now, straight away, I can tell you that this is not a bunch of motivational videos. It is not preaching some work hard and you can achieve your dreams thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that if it is helpful, but there are plenty of students I know out there who are already working super hard and they are not hitting the results they could or should be. Hard work does not equal results. No teacher, no examiner knows how many hours your teen has put in and therefore equates it to how many marks they get. There are many students out there who are actually working way harder than they need to be. If you have a teen where you're thinking, I cannot believe how much they are studying, then this may well be them because they are going about things the long and hard way. And that is not their fault. It's not that they are doing things wrong as such. It's just that they don't know a better way. So this is all about understanding why that is happening and what is actually required to achieve a clear focus on what's being required by any exam question or essay question or assignment. And so this is all about understanding why that is happening and what's required to actually achieve a clear focus on what any exam question is requiring or essay question is asking or assignment demands. So within this, I deliver the study success formula with the key ingredient that so many students are missing. And I explain the 2 types of procrastination and why they keep even the smartest students trapped. And of course, how to overcome those. I also give your teen a proven system to break down their bigger goals or bigger tasks into clear, manageable, actionable tasks. And this means that your teen is going to be focusing on the most impactful elements that are going to make the biggest difference to their study, give them their biggest bang for buck. For instance, let's take the study success formula. Knowledge plus application equals success. Now, if their weakest link right now is application, if their subject knowledge is pretty good or even great, but their application of that knowledge in the way that the question asks or the mark scheme requires is the missing piece of their puzzle, then fixing that or upskilling that is what is going to increase their results and their confidence the most in terms of knowing what is being asked and how to respond. Learning more and more subject content, taking on more and more subject knowledge isn't going to make much of a difference because it's going to be like putting more fuel in a car that doesn't have any wheels, or at least has flat tires, or even just one flat tire. We need to figure out where the focus needs to be, what the fix needs to be in order to really catapult their performance. And then all of that fuel, all of the other features of the car are going to absolutely be able to take off. Next, we have Catapult 2, organized, efficient, and ready for action. Again, nothing to do with motivational hacks. This is where your teen discovers all the things that they are doing or not doing that are keeping them in maybe procrastination mode, stress mode, slowing down their rate of productivity, keeping them very busy, but not necessarily creating the outcomes that they're after, keeping them overwhelmed, stressed by how much they have to do. And it gives them the systems and strategies to complete their small or large tasks much more effectively, much more efficiently, and importantly, do it really strategically. Do it in the way that makes the most sense, will be the fastest, and produces the best quality outcome. We do not need to sacrifice quality for speed. You'll see from this list of 10 why and how they create both better quality responses and make it faster to do it as you follow these through with me. That's exactly what the focus of this episode is. So let's take an example like an essay. Often it can feel pretty big, sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming, especially when students think of it as, okay, I'm going to sit down to work on my essay. That is pretty vague and it's pretty overwhelming. We don't know how much we're going to get done. We don't know what it requires. We need to chunk these bigger tasks down. But not just chunk them down, but do so according to time and outcome. I call this scheduling outcomes. We're not just going to say, hey, I'm going to work on my essay this evening. We say, I'm going to find all of the quotes that I need to support my points and organize them into which body paragraphs they're going to belong to. And I'm going to say that's going to take me maybe, 30 minutes. Then I'm going to write body paragraph 1. Maybe that's another 30 minutes. And if you're thinking, oh my goodness, that would take my teen maybe an hour, maybe much longer, then note that because we have already planned all of those body paragraphs and the quotes, it's going to be much easier and faster to write those body paragraphs. And on that note, notice I did not say I'm going to start with the intro of the essay when I sit down to write the essay. I always advise students to write their intro last. It is so common for students to stall or get stuck at the first hurdle just trying to get started on something big like an essay, and understandably so. I always tell them it's really hard to introduce something that you haven't actually written yet. So the best thing that they can do is get all of their body paragraphs written, those parts that coincidentally also get them the most marks, and then go back and write the introduction and their conclusion. It will be so much easier and faster. And I have more on essays in Catapult number 9 coming up. Okay, third way to catapult results and confidence is note-taking. This can be a very time-consuming activity for students. I remember as a student having copious notes in the 4 colors of the biro, the blue, the black, the green, the red. And now we have all these beautiful highlighters and marker pens and all of the rest of it. But we really need to make sure that note-taking is effective. Before they even start any style or format of note-taking, they need to know what is the focus of this activity, of this exercise. Why are they taking these notes? Is it for a case study? And what is that being used for? And how? Is it for revision? Is it just part of learning a topic? These are going to impact the decisions that we make on the best way to note-take and the most appropriate format. What we don't want here is War and Peace style notes, which is what I always remember one parent describing their daughter's notes to me as. The huge collection of information that honestly kind of makes us feel good. I remember having pages and pages and pages of notes, and it really kind of gave me a little bit of confidence. It made me feel good. It made me feel productive. But that confidence is only any good if it then translates to the performance and the results that we are trying to use them for. Because nothing knocks confidence like giving what we think is a great performance or creating what we think is a great piece of work or having all of those revision notes or learning notes only for it to then achieve a result that is lower than we were expecting or that is disappointing for us, whatever that might be. And that leads us quite nicely into the 4th and 5th ways to catapult results and confidence. Number 4 is reverse engineered revision planning, so that your team doesn't run out of time to cover all of the content that they need to, and to ensure that they are putting the right emphasis, the right amounts of time into the things that they most need to. And the 5th being using revision techniques that actually work. So information goes in, is processed in their brain so that it actually stays in, and then will flow easily from brain to paper. So your team needs to be using a reverse engineered revision planning system, and then they need to be using active revision strategies to actually carry it out. And unfortunately, most of the traditional methods that probably you and I were using, and I know a lot of students are still using today, are passive rather than active revision. So this is really important when it comes to ensuring that they truly understand the content and can then apply it to whatever the question asks in an exam. Okay, catapult skill number 6, my favorite, the 6 elements of exam technique. Now, over the years, I have condensed, refined, and played a little bit with my personal descriptions and definitions of what exam technique is. And I would say the 2 that I still most use today are that exam technique is being able to convey the subject knowledge that your team has in the way that the question requires and the mark scheme demands. And I really like that definition. The idea that your team does need their subject knowledge, but they need to be putting it across to meet the demands of the question, to meet the requirements of the mark scheme. It is definitely focused on the catapulting results half of this podcast focus. But I have also, over the years, kind of developed a super succinct, almost like slogan version, which is that exam technique is simply getting the most marks in the least words. In other words, giving the marker what they want in the most direct, succinct, and effective way. I think it really sums up the idea of getting straight to the point, not having to give extra information just in case, not waffling or saying the same thing in a different way, not writing a little bit more in the hope that it might impress the marker, because none of that matters when it comes to exams. It's knowing what the question and mark scheme want, knowing how to get that across, given the subject knowledge that they have, and importantly, also knowing what the question does not want. I often say that that is the ultimate in exam technique and confidence. Knowing when to stop writing, knowing exactly when you have the right number of examples or the right amount of detail or the right amount of supporting points, and you confidently put a full stop and just move on to the next question. That really is the ultimate in confidence around exam technique, I feel. Now, this brings us nicely into skill number 7, which is command words. Knowing how to identify and respond to the command of the question. And this is one of those 6 elements of exam technique. But it is so important and such a big area of training in itself that it gets its whole own Catapult module in the 10-week program. Command words are the cognitive verbs in questions. The ones that, if you were like me, or if your teen was like me as a student, and as many students still tell me today, the words that we feel like the teacher or an examiner is just sort of mixing up a little bit, just to keep things a little bit fresh and a little bit less boring. Just a more interesting way to ask the question. I can tell you right now, that is not what they are there for, and that is not what is happening. So these are words like describe, explain, justify, state, define, discuss. Discuss, doesn't every student love that one? And many, many, many more. They all require different things. They are operating at different cognitive levels. So it is obvious, I hope, to see that knowing how to identify these and how to respond them is critical to your teen's success in terms of the results that they're getting and to their confidence in terms of knowing how to respond and what to put in their answers, especially at those higher mark questions where they aren't just asking you to name or state one or two things for 1 or 2 marks, but they are actually asking your teen to do things like compare or discuss or analyze or consider to what extent for maybe those 6 or 10 or maybe even 15 marks, maybe even the 20, 25, 30 marks in an essay exam question. And when your teen knows exactly what a question is really asking them and therefore what it requires, there is so much more clarity in being able to respond effectively. And that means, yes, more marks, but also a lot of potentially wasted writing time or word count, and effort is saved. Now let's go back to those 6 or 10 or 15 or up to 30 mark questions, the extended responses, the essay questions. As you can imagine, these require some special attention, and that's exactly what we do in Catapult 8. Tackling the toughest top-level commands. These are the commands that operate at the analyze and evaluate levels, and these are also the levels that any and every essay question operates at. Even if the command word in the essay actually says explain, I can 99.9% guarantee that is actually requiring an analysis level response from your teen. So it is critical that your teen knows how to discern these levels of questions, how to dissect them accurately, and how to respond appropriately, provide all of the elements that are required with those types of questions, with those levels of questions, the demands of those questions, if they're going to get the marks that they're capable of. And if we're going to reduce any confusion or overwhelm or general vagueness or waffle that often comes with these. So they have the clarity to respond confidently and with the right focus and content. Okay, final 2 ways to catapult results and confidence. Catapult 9 is essays made easy. This is where I train your teen in the 2-step topic and focus system to dissect essay questions accurately, avoid falling into the topic trap, the writing about trap, the tell me all about this topic trap, and ensure that they produce a focused, high quality, and succinct yet sophisticated essay. It is not about fancy writing. I always say that being clear trumps everything else, but to do that, they are going to also need the structure techniques. How do I actually go about structuring an effective response to that question? The planning skills. Planning being a step that students generally don't want to do. They want to just get on with the essay, or they feel they don't have time to make a plan if they're in a timed exam. But I cannot say this enough, a solid plan is essential for a high quality response that can also be written so much faster. So I give students a very clear planning system so that they have structure, so they have content, and they have the supporting evidence, and they do all of that really quickly but really effectively, so that they end up with a structure that not only flows but actually adds value to their response in the way that the points build and combine together. And they have selected the best evidence that best matches each of their paragraphs in the most effective way. All of this creates a higher achieving essay and gets it done, gets it written a lot more easily and confidently and cleanly. And finally, what is the one thing that is key to achieving top marks and the confidence that comes from those top marks? It's actually understanding how to get the marks. Understanding and meeting the descriptors on the mark schemes. Being able to figure out what those marking descriptors, what the success criteria, what the rubric wording actually means when it's provided with an assignment. For example, what does discerning selection of evidence really actually look like or require? What is the difference between a detailed explanation and a sophisticated explanation? And even taking it a step further, being able to mentally predict what the mark scheme is actually going to include or say when they are in an exam situation, when they are having to essentially guess what the examiner wants. We don't want them just guessing. We want them strategically predicting. Being able to figure out from the wording of a question what marks are going to be allocated for what and how to achieve them. This is a high-level skill and is probably the one that really benefits from continual and focused practice, which, luckily, thanks to the wealth of past papers that we can all use, we can do exactly this. I know that many students want to focus on practicing writing answers on past papers or to do practice questions, but honestly, they can often get as much, if not more, value in terms of enhancing their exam technique and improving their exam performance from playing this fun little game of predict the mark scheme with their past papers. And it means that they can get a lot more practice in by doing this as well. I mean, they could get through maybe 2 or 3 past papers in an hour by doing this versus taking probably like 2 hours to complete one paper if they are actually completing the questions. Now, I'm not saying that completing the questions is not the right thing to do. I'm just saying there are additional ways to use these past papers really effectively and very strategically. So that 10th way to catapult results and confidence is mastering mark schemes. So let's do a quick 1 to 10 recap. Number 1, focus and commitment, making sure that they are focusing on their weakest link. So they're putting their time and effort into the skills and the work that's going to give them the biggest bang for their buck, getting the wheels onto the car rather than putting more fuel in the car if it hasn't got the wheels. Number 2, efficiency and organization. Reducing their stress and overwhelm and procrastination by treating it at the source, replacing those never-ending to-do lists with scheduled outcomes, and getting way more strategic. So they're not just studying, but they're actually producing tangible outcomes that are going to make the biggest difference to them and their results. So they actually spend less time studying and have more time for the other things in life and still get better results. I have so many students that have had both of those things happen, and I'll share a page in just a moment where you can see plenty of examples of that. Number 3, note-taking. Stop the War and Peace notes and instead have useful, efficient, effective notes that they actually understand and remember and are crafted with the purpose or outcome in mind. Number 4, revision planning, specifically reverse engineered revision planning, using that system so they're not revising according to just a list of topics, because that is a recipe for running out of time to cover everything, but instead revising according to a predetermined plan that is based on priorities, actual available time, and a schedule of content. Number 5, revision techniques that actually work. Remember that study success formula is knowledge plus application equals success. So as much as I focus a lot on the skills of application, I do also want to make sure that students have their subject knowledge ready to go. And there are definitely super effective techniques as well as super slow and time-consuming techniques, as well as virtually useless techniques. I will stick my neck out as far as to say that. And so I want your teen using the former. I want them using the super effective and time-efficient techniques. That is what we want. Number 6 is excellent exam technique. The 6 elements of exam technique that ensure your teen gets the most marks possible with the subject knowledge that they have in the least words. Number 7, conquering command words, knowing exactly what a question is asking and having the skills to respond at the right level with the right amount of detail. In other words, they are actually answering the question and not just giving the right content, but the right amount of content in the right way. Number 8, tackling the toughest top-level commands of analyze and evaluate so that your teen hits more of the success criteria in these high-mark questions. These really are the questions that provide the greatest opportunity, but they are also the ones that students fall down on the most. They are the best places to pick up marks. They are the easiest places to lose them. Okay, number 9 is essay strategy, not falling into the topic trap and ensuring a structured and focused high quality response that has sophisticated selection and integration of evidence, points that don't just flow but also build, and an essay that gets written within the word count limit or within time limits. And number 10, mastering mark schemes. That's understanding what the wording of the mark schemes really means and being able to mentally predict the mark scheme when they are in the exam hall. So there we have 10 ways to catapult your teen's results and their confidence at the same time. If you would like your teen to be trained in all 10 of these things, and a little bit more with some specially selected bonus additions, including being able to have me directly provide feedback and guidance on their own work, to be able to discuss with me how to actually apply these concepts and strategies to their tasks, their exam papers, their assignments, then I invite you to check out the 10-week grade transformation program. It is at www.gradetransformation.com/join. I'll put the direct link into the show notes for that. I'd love to have your teen join me and join the hundreds of other like-minded students who have completed this training. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, on that page, the www.gradetransformation.com/join page, you can see feedback from many of those students and their parents. So I highly recommend checking out that page, if only to see the sorts of outcomes that these skills and techniques can create for students. Any questions? Just email support@rocksolidstudy.com and I will be very happy to help. And I will meet you back here next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you then. Bye. If you're ready to have your teen achieve their best possible results with less stress, then I want to invite you to enroll them in the 10-week Grade Transformation program, where they're going to learn the key concepts, skills, and strategies to catapult their performance in assessments and exams. It's risk-free. They either achieve bigger and better results with a whole lot more confidence in 10 weeks, or we refund you in full. Just head over to www.rocksolidstudy.com/program, and I'll see you there.